my belief that the dreams for the future of my community is for a more integrated society, where the older generation and the younger generation both appreciate what each can offer. Now, I need some audience participation. Hands up if you've given up your seat to an elderly person on the bus, unable to stand in the last week, let's say. Right, that's good. And now, how many of you have finished a crossword or written a letter in the last month? Exactly, there's less hands there. So, as you can see, the generation gap poses many differences, and they need to be reduced in order to create this integrated society. So, we in the UK are now considered to be living in an ageing population. All this means is people are living for longer, and that's great. They have more time to tick off those aspirations on the bucket list. Only the other day, for example, my grandpa decided it was time to have his first flying lesson at the age of 65. Now, if that isn't amazing, I don't know what is. So logically, in order to get solutions, we need to understand the problems first of all. My parents and I have a very different generational gap than between my grandparents and I. However, they're all strands along the same lines: language, appearance, technology. Language has been a clear divider between the generations. English has evolved over the years. For the parents and teachers out there, LOL could mean lots of love, but to us as the younger generation, it's laugh out loud. As well as language, so as appearance. When was the last time you saw someone over the age of 35 wearing a snapback and a pair of Jordans? But yet, when was the last time this century you saw someone under the age of 25 wearing a pair of cords and a golf sweater? Although these are a bit stereotypical, you understand the idea behind it. As well as appearance, technology. Even in the last 5 years, it's come on leaps and bounds. The word internet can both excite and scare people all at the same time. But just take a second to think. What phone do your parents have? But yet, what do they use it for? I can safely say that my mum and dad do not use Snapchat when they're at work, yet I'd use it at school. So now we've seen the problems, we can now look at the solutions. They need to break down the mistrust and stereotypical views placed between the generations. Let's face it, the older generation have lived longer. They've been where we are at some point. We have not been in their shoes yet. So what we need to focus on is what I can do. When I talk about I'm not just talking about myself, but what young people across the borough can do in schools. The first solution I've come up with is to care for the elderly as we would younger children. This burden usually falls on the working adult who find it hard to balance work, personal and caring lives. The elderly want to feel less of a nuisance, and we want the carer to feel less restricted. So I believe community care centres run by volunteers will take the pressure off both sides. However, it's good to remember not everyone needs a care home. They just need the peace of mind they have somewhere to go. Young people have parks in the summer or to go to the cinema in the winter. Where do the elderly people have to go? So this is an easy way to have a place that they can travel to, but also it will improve their confidence as they have to get out and about. Another solution is to provide workshops, utilising the skills of the younger generation in order to help the older. Sessions could be based on the internet, apps, phones, etc. How many times has your parents asked for advice on one of those areas? Now, I'm sure that's quite often. So we need to help the older generation to improve their knowledge, but it will also help the confidence of the young individuals involved. But don't forget, it can work the other way around. We can utilise the skills of the older generation, bring them into schools to talk about their experiences, even during the war. I know from my personal experience, I found it a lot more interesting to listen to a personal story about the war. And finally, providing social opportunities for those that would otherwise be lonely. At my school, we provide a sixth form pantomime every year and invite the local care home residents. Not only is it fun for those performing, but it's great fun for the audience. But not everyone has to perform. Others just serve drinks and just talk to the elderly people. If this was to happen at a few more schools, how many more elderly people would be able to get involved? Be loads. So, to round off, young individuals, we need to make sure we break down the mistrust placed between the generations. So next time you're on the bus, offer someone finding it hard to stand a seat. But also don't be afraid to ask that older relative for their childhood story. Both generations have things to offer, and that's good to keep in mind. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've taken something away from this talk.